And yeah, that brings us to like the all this stuff in Glastonbury, right? With Kneecap and what the BBC decided to broadcast. I would have loved to be in the control room of the BBC live stream. And then also the meeting that everyone had afterwards, because it's so funny, right? Kneecap is an Irish rap group, rap production group, three guys, and they've been very pro-Palestine, obviously because they're Irish and they understand colonialism and all this kind of stuff, and it's a very, very like common opinion held in Ireland, right? And they're also very anti-British, right? Because they're Irish. It makes sense. And they've made some very controversial statements, and they've said things like up Hamas, or was it up Hezbollah? I can't remember. Up some kind of terrorist organization, right? At a music thing. And they're being investigated for this by the UK government and all this kind of stuff. They've had visas denied, and one member is looking at criminal charges for, I believe he was holding a flag of a terrorist organization, and they've had lots of scrutiny for their very, very vocally pro-Palestine stances, right? And they were performing at Glastonbury, and the BBC was live streaming Glastonbury, right? And the BBC thought, well, Kneecap are probably going to do some very controversial pro-Palestine thing, so we're not going to stream them, and we're going to stream a much lesser known, much less controversial rap group called Bob Villain, right? Just to be safe. So while Kneecap is performing, BBC cuts away from Kneecap and starts recording this much lesser known, perfectly harmless, hippie-looking guy called Bob Villain. And he gets on stage and says, free Palestine, which at this point isn't a very controversial statement, depending on how many Jewish friends you have, right? And he comes out and he goes, all right, you've all heard free Palestine, but have you heard this one? And goes, death to the IDF. And then hundreds of, it looked like at least could be tens of thousands of people are just chanting death to the IDF, waving their Palestine flags and all this kind of stuff. I would have loved to have been in the control room of the BBC going, what the fuck? What do we do? Do we air it? Do we cut away? What are we doing? Do we go back to Kneecap? Should we go back to Kneecap? No, we can't do Kneecap. We didn't set cameras up to them. We thought this wasn't going to happen. They must have been freaking the fuck out, dude. Like, that is so much worse than anything that Kneecap have ever said. Chanting death to the IDF. They must have been freaking the fuck out in the control. And BBC have come out and said, yeah, in hindsight, we should have cut away from this. This is a disaster. Everyone's got scrutiny on Glastonbury. This Bob Villain guy has had his visa denied to the States, which is interesting that you can get your visa denied to a country for saying something that's not really illegal in another country about a different country. That's interesting. But as an aspiring immigrant to the United States, I agree 100% with all policies of Israel and the United States. So I agree with it. Lock him up. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, and now everyone's like, oh my God, can you believe what he said and what all these people were chanting? And it's like, I don't know. I'm personally, I'm at a point where I don't care at all what people say. I can see what governments are doing. And it doesn't even come close to, so, oh, this is a bad thing to say. It's like, man, I just, I can see what they're doing. I don't care what some fucking punk protest band singer says about a foreign military. I can see video footage of what that foreign military does to prisoners in their prisons. And then I can see people protest to let them keep doing it. I don't care what people say. I can see what people do. And it doesn't compare. I think like it's a really interesting period that we're in where it just seems like that this, I don't think this has happened since Vietnam. where the powers that be and every single person, every other person are so diametrically opposed to this one war that we're paying for, like we're funding it, you know? And that's why when people go, oh yeah, what about Hamas? Hamas are bad. And it's like, yeah, I think they're bad. I think they do bad things, but I can't do anything about them, right? I'm not there, and I don't fund them. Right? You know what I do fund? I fund the other guys that are dropping bombs on kids, and every time I pay tax, a couple dollars fall on children in refugee camps. I can do something about that, and I don't want to pay for that. If they want to do that, go for it. That's what I think, all right? If these two groups want to fight each other, go for it. But let them do it on even terms. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to fund one side. You know, I'm not funding Hamas, so I can't really do it. I'm not going to go over there and fucking take them out. But I certainly don't want to give them money. So I'm not. Well, unless you read a few historical documents about Israel maybe giving a lot of money to Hamas. But where did that money come from? From me! I don't want to pay for it. If they won't put their fucking toys down and stop hitting each other with it, I'm going to go, all right, I'm taking the toys away. If you guys want to fight, you got to do it with fists. That's what I think about it. I don't know what the solution is. I think it's a lot more complex than people fucking believe, but you can just stop doing apartheid. It's a thing that has been stopped before. And if they don't want to stop doing it, fine. If they don't want to stop fighting, fine. But I don't want to pay for it. I think that's fair. So I want the Australian government to stop manufacturing weapons that fall on the heads of children, because I don't agree with how those weapons are being used. And I think that's a pretty fucking reasonable opinion to have, especially when the average person my age cannot afford to buy a home. We got bigger problems. I don't care what the fuck is happening over there. I want it to stop. And if they're not going to stop, if that's out of my control, I certainly want to stop paying one side to continue it eternally until everyone else is dead, because that seems to be the goal. And yeah, it's like all these people are like, oh, can you believe what was said? It's like, I don't care what was said. I care about what's being done. And they're not even remotely close. And it also is no wonder that people are out there chanting shit like that, and it seems to be universally agreed upon amongst everyone under 40. There aren't that many people that disagree with, you know, this is bad and we need to stop funding it. So it doesn't surprise me at all that when, you know, most of the population is being completely fucking ignored, and worse than being ignored, they're being called anti-Semitic and Nazis for opposing all of this death and violence, right? It doesn't surprise me that young people are just gathering in giant groups and saying, you know, inflammatory shit, because they're not being listened to. And what do people who are not being listened to have to turn to? Escalating acts of speech. And then that's how it always fucking happens. People who aren't heard will make you listen. You know? So when the most of the world starts saying, hey, all right, you guys can, if you guys are going to keep fucking killing each other, can one side at least let food in so that women and children and non-combatants aren't starving to death? Can we start with that? And then one side goes, oh, and drags it so that a few extra 10,000 people starve to death, and then goes, all right, fine, we'll let some food in, but anyone who comes too close, we will shoot them. Also, we're going to put opiates in the food so they get addicted to drugs and then die. It's like, all right, well, if they want to do that, okay, but I don't want to pay for it. And if we cut off our money I don't think they're going to be able to afford to do that anymore. And maybe the world will get better. And they'll have to figure out a way to live in peace. I think that's the thing is like, they don't, as long as one side is getting infinity dollars from every taxpayer on the earth, it seems, they will never have to live in peace. They will never have to compromise because they're simply too powerful and they don't need to. Right? Why would they have to? They have all the cards. So the only way to make two people work together that hate each other is they got to come to the table. And if one person if one person owns the fucking table and won't let the other person come near even a chair, you got to be like, all right, well, that's not fair. So yeah, I don't know. I hate talking about this stuff because it'll never end. But what can end is me paying for it. So that's what I care about. I don't want to pay for it. I think it's bad.